Randall, would you like to do an invocation?
Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come and serve you at this meeting. We ask that you give us the strength and wisdom to make the decisions that best serve our residents and lead us positively in the future. We remember all those in Texas and Louisiana that are in need of your guidance or help. Please send all the hands and feet to make a difference in their world and what they're going through at this time. Bless and keep us, and we ask these things in Jesus' name.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Unanimous for it. Do we have any citizens' comments about any issue on the agenda outside of public hearing? We'll have comments there, but if you have a comment about something else on the agenda, now's the time. Sarah? Hey, it's okay, don't worry about it. It's fine. Sure. Okay, I'm going to go to public hearing. Item A, proposed amendments to the sign ordinance, Exhibit 1. Do I have anyone here wanting to comment on that item? Hearing no one, I'll close the public meeting on that item. Item B, Wanda Peters, Margaret Peters, and Greg Peters is requesting a variance of the required 100 feet street frontage to plus minus distance of 70 feet. The property is located at tax map R5, parcel 40. Is there anyone here for that item? Please.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Hey.
Good. And just state your name.
Greg Peters, I reside at 2137 Saunders Road. So I've been in the county all my life, and we've got a lot on Gowler Street. And the house was on it for over 60 years. It was my grandfather's house, and he had passed away, and so he left it to my two aunts, to my dad, his brother, and Margaret Harris Peters. And so when the house burnt down, it took a little time to get it cleaned up and all the debris off of it. And then we realized that we only had a 6-month grandfather period to be able to rebuild the house. Well, we weren't ready at that point to do that. And so there's enough square footage on it, so 70 by 140. And the house next to it runs long ways. And so I think we could build a house like that one that is next to it there, and it looked very nice and everything, but I needed some help. You know, we got a lot that we can't do anything except pay taxes. My granddad moved there in 1966. He did live across the street, and some of you in the county remember Lamar Peters got killed on a dozer over on Robert Peters' farm in Keith, and he just couldn't stand living in it. He bought the house at 465 Gowler Street and lived in that house until he and my grandmother both died, and then we rented it to some nieces that reside here in Ringgold now. But we just need some help on that because it don't meet the building ordinance of 100 feet. And but there is enough square footage there, and it's not a low lot. You know, it's high, and there's apartments and across the street from it, and we're just looking to get a variance on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else on item B? I'll close that public hearing. Item C, Wynwood Gardens Incorporated is requesting to subdivide the property into 2 lots. The property is located at tax map 22C, parcel 35. Anyone here for that item?
I'm Larry Craig Holcomb. My residence is 4053 North Road, Ringgold. I own about approximately 4 or 5 acres on the Tobacco Parkway. I just want to sell 1 acre to my neighbor of mine. You can leave it as it is. It's rented out now to a little garden center, and who's going to leave that as is.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I'll close the public hearing for that item. Item D, Emerson Properties Incorporated is requesting a variance for signs that has a square footage of 265 feet over the allowed 128 square feet. The property is located at tax map 37C, parcel 5A-1.
Chad
Please,
Young,
yes.
ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Emerson Properties and on behalf of Hugh Harris with Farm to Fork, I believe at the Planning Commission meeting, we learned, and both of us honestly forgot the paperwork that you have in front of you, but you have everything in front of you need to make a decision. Assuming the council approves the new sign ordinance, the variance requested would really be for about 80 square feet as opposed to 265 square feet. The council has already approved a variance for on the rear of the building, which is facing west, frankly with plans that are coming pretty quickly for that adjoining lot and some commercial uses for that. That sign is probably going to go away because it's going to be obstructed by whatever's constructed on the adjoining lot. So the request today is for the signage on the front of the property, the pole sign and
The marquee sign and just the sign on the building itself on the front. I think you have a picture of that.
And that's like 80 square feet, did you say?
under your existing ordinance, before you adopt any amendments tonight, it would be about 265 feet variance. But if you adopt the amendments tonight, according to Mr. Boss at the Planning Commission last Thursday, it would be a variance of roughly 80 feet per square foot. And the request is for the specific signs that have been presented to you in the drawings of the renderings.
Are these dimensions correct on this?
The 265, he's saying would be 80.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that the dimensions on what you have in front of you are absolutely correct. I haven't reviewed all of your proposed sign ordinance amendments in detail, but just from what Mr. Boss was saying, with whatever changes you're making on the allowable square footages, I believe you said the pole sign effectively goes away in the calculation of the square footage, so the variance request would really be more like 80 square feet.
Well, good, you answered. I was trying to, we have something in the ordinance that talks about aggregate square footage. I mean, and I was trying to add all those signs, and I thought, I'm gonna ask you. I was trying to say, now, how big is this one, and how big is this one, and how big is this, and how many do you need, and how much space are we taking with signs? And so I'm very glad to hear that one may go away, and the pole may not count if we do the other, so.
And I know when we were here before on the variance for the facade, that was one of the questions I think council like you had was how sturdily is that existing sign attached to the building? And it is attached, but it's attached in a way that it can be removed, especially if you get a commercial user on that adjoining lot.
And that's on the west side,
On the
and it
west
will
side.
go away?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak on item D? I'll close that public hearing and open the public hearing for item E. Alvin Mashburn is requesting a variance to allow for commercial truck parking on C2 property. The property is located at tax map 38B, parcel 2. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of that?
Now, Mashburn, I live at 607 Post Oak Road. And MD Carriers is presently leasing from us on Battlefield Parkway. We parked 6 or 8 trucks and I think maybe 10 trailers. And we just want to get that approved.
Okay, thank you.
You got anything to add?
I think we pretty much covered it in the other meeting, unless you guys want to do
Yeah,
that.
what, y'all have any questions, I guess that's what we're.
And we actually reopen this after the public hearing, and we'll reopen it for questions at that point.
Okay.
So if we do, we'll address it then.
We gave Greg Boss everything he needed from the lease to state that everything we're saying is in the lease and everything.
Right.
That was my question. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Anyone else like to speak on that item? Please,
On behalf of.
whichever.
Good evening. I'm Catoosa County Commissioner Jim Cutler. I live at 175 Hidden Trace, of course, here in Ringgold, Georgia. And I'm here tonight actually representing myself and some of my constituents. I got some phone calls about people, why are we allowing trucks to be parked in that one area? And just to bring you up to speed a little bit, that area of 2A is served by Ellis Springs Road, Fowler Road, Gilbert Road, and Hidden Trace. Of course, the concern is traffic, with trucks pulling in and out. We already have traffic from Junior's Lumber. There are 2 daycare centers there. People pull down to get to the Hampton Inn and make a U-turn and come back up to go to the Hampton Inn. Soon they'll be doing the same thing to go to Farm to Fork, we hope. And of course, they're planning a second hotel. So the biggest concern from the calls I've gotten and myself are the people that are emptying out on 2A in that area. And of course, the increased truck traffic that is going to occur along with the trucks coming in and out of Junior's Lumber. The main concern, of course, is traffic, but safety as well. And I've had, again, several calls asking that this not be allowed. That another area or location that they could use would be more conducive to storing trucks and having trucks there rather than in this particular area. So, you know, there's no signage, there's no stoplights to warn people that trucks may be coming in and out. So, again, the fear is one of safety and danger and a higher volume of traffic, especially with those businesses that are already there and surrounding it. So, again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I told my constituents I'd speak up for everybody, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Subdivisions, by the way, are White Oak Plantation, which is behind this property. Then you have Brooms Estates, Hidden Trace, and then the families living on Gilbert Road, and the families living on Ellis Springs Road. So there's quite a population
Okay.
surplus in there.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
I'd like to respond to his question, please.
Sure.
Sir, I'd just like to bring to your attention that 10 acres is commercial property, and this is just a little bit of what's going to happen up there. Sooner or later, I'm going to sell that to some big organization. It's going to be a big trucking terminal. You're going to see hundreds of trucks. You're going to see all kinds of stuff. That's commercial property. And for you to come down here and complain about 5 trucks is pitiful. You know,
Point
you got
point of
to
order,
go
Mr.
out
Mayor.
and
I don't
every day.
think he's out of line, Mr.
Hey, Alvin, I have a point of order. It's okay, I have a point of order. I don't mind you. That's okay, just as you address this, if you could just address me
Oh,
with your
I'm sorry.
concerns, and that's okay,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
He's the one who made the statement.
Sure, I understand.
But, I mean, you know, that's commercial property.
Sure.
You know, if you guys want to buy it, that's fine. I'll take $1.3 million for it. And you can do whatever you want to do with it. But that's commercial property. It's ready to build on, sewer, gas, water, everything. And I pay over $20,000 a year in taxes on that piece of property. I've done it for years. I'm not going to do it many more years. I'm going to sell it.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
You want me to respond or just let
Now, you go
Yeah,
ahead. sir.
now's the time, if you would like to, it's up to you, Jim.
No, I'm just, I represent that district, it's District 3. I have gotten calls from citizens asking me to do
Sure.
something about it. And like I said earlier, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Sure.
You
You're
could
going to get calls
address,
for everything.
excuse
And
me,
if it's
Jim,
commercial-
Jim, if you don't mind
Point of order.
addressing me directly.
Needs to address you.
Thank you,
Sorry.
yes.
You know, again, I'm here, I live on Hidden Trace, but I'm here also in response to phone calls I've gotten from my constituents, and I feel obligated to represent those people. I mean, that's why we're all elected. They have to turn to somebody. So that is one thing I'm doing, and if it turns into be a big commercial trucking terminal, I will probably be standing here in front of you again.
I understand.
So that's my.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, yes.
Raymond Proctor and I live at 197 Pine Street.
Right.
And what we have 4 trucks that have dedicated runs with Roper Corporation out of Fayette. Every one of our trucks leave anywhere between 3 o'clock in the morning to 6:30 in the morning. So they're out of there before any traffic starts. Their deadline is to be back at Roper by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're back to our yard no later than 3 o'clock before the traffic starts and builds up. The ladies at the daycare come over and told us after we put the 2 big spotlights up out there that they liked us being there because they felt safe coming in that time of the morning, knowing that some of our drivers was coming in about the same time. But when we leave, we go up, hit the interstate. When we come back, we get on the interstate in Ringgold, come up to 2A and come down and turn right into the property. There's no traffic problems whatsoever. I've been in safety business for 35 years, and there's no evidence of any kind of safety violation there.
Okay. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Hearing no one, I'll close that public hearing. Item F, Alvin Mashburn is requesting multiple variances. The variances are labeled Exhibit B. The properties are located at tax map 39A, parcel 1 and 1B.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chad Young again. I'm here on behalf of Daniel Silvers or Silvers Plumbing and Mechanical, who's the proposed end user for this tract of property. It's located there on Lookout Road, adjacent to the interstate, immediately adjacent to the Maderas siding and windows building. Mr. Silver's plan, as is shown on the site plan that's presented to you, is to 2 purposes for this property. There are 2 tax parcels. He would first construct his office building where he would move his office, have a small storage area in the back, he's in the plumbing business that would be fenced. This rendering is what's actually being built there now. I think Mr. Wright can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this parcel where the office building's going was grandfathered in as far as the city's building facade requirements. But since we were requesting these other variances, we just put that out there also to let the council know what's being built. The front will be a mountain stone, the side split face block up to a certain height, and then the tan and darker brown metal that you see should be in conformance with everything that's there on the property now. The real variance request for the parcel where his office building would go, his office would occupy one of the units. There would be 3 commercial units that are for lease. But under your existing ordinance, there is a provision that says a contractor, if he's going to have any type of storage, that actually says it's supposed to be I-1 or industrial. And we're asking for a variance to allow his storage in the rear or inside the building. He's not going to be parking equipment or anything like that there, but would store certain things that he would need for the job site. The second variance on Exhibit B is, you would see that also attached in the site plan and attached are architectural plans for self-storage units. There would be one climate controlled storage, self-storage unit building, and then the others shown on the plans would be just what I would call your standard drive-up, secure, self-serve, self-storage facilities. And those are proposed to be constructed out of metal, which would be very similar to what's there on the Maderas siding and windows building on most any self-storage building that you see. And so, sorry if we gave you too much information. We tried to come all at one time to request what we wanted all in one package. And I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, in just a moment. Yeah, we have to get to the next part. Thank you, Chad. Would anybody else like to speak on item F? I'll close that public hearing and open the public hearing on item G. Hamilton Medical Center is requesting a variance of the required 3 to 6 height of a ground sign to 5 to 6 feet. They are also requesting a variance for a ground sign of 9 to 8 feet in height and a square footage of 67 feet. The property is located at tax map 40, parcel 71-3C. Anyone here to speak on that item, please?
My name is Stephen Brady. I reside at 218 Lee Drive in Ringgold, and I'm here representing Hamilton Medical Center. I think the code allows for a pylon sign and a ground sign. instead of doing the taller pylon sign, they just want to do 2 ground signs. And then one of the ground signs is about a foot bigger than what's allowed. I think you guys have these drawings in front of you, kind of shows, I think both of them together are less than 100 square feet, so that's all I got.
Sure. And we do have those drawings, and thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on that item? I'll close that public hearing, so back to item A, propose amendments to the sign ordinance, Exhibit 1. How would the council like to proceed?
Mayor?
Please, yes.
You had one more at the bottom.
Item H.
Oh, propose amendments, okay, just the H got left off on mine. Oh, it's on yours. Huh. Item H, just make sure it's the same. It is, it's, okay, proposed amendments to section 9.4 of the zoning ordinance, Exhibit 2. Would anyone like to speak on that item? Hearing no one, I'll close that public meeting. Back to item A. Propose amendments to the sign ordinance, Exhibit 1. How would the council like to proceed?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, which one did you just do?
We're on item A,
That line?
the amendments to the sign ordinance.
Okay, we've got a lot of paper up here, so come on.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor,
Please, Dan.
I guess I could address a couple of the issues in this ordinance. What we're trying to do, along with the Planning Commission, Greg and I had a work session with them, and then I see Commissioner Higgs back here in the back. Their last meeting, they took it up as far as the draft that the city attorney prepared. And what the attempt of this is to try to straighten out some of the language that may have not been clear. And one of the main things is about the pole sign. If it's over 20 feet high and it falls in the correct zone, then it does not count towards the aggregate amount of square footage for signs. So hopefully, I'll try to answer any question that you have, but that's the purpose of it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for city manager. Dan, I reviewed this, and it looks like, of course, this was passed by planning and zoning before it came to us. And if I understand it correctly, looking at what they want to strike and delete, if I understand it correctly, on the subsection T, I guess it adds the O1, but also it omits C2 as far as in the event of EPIS is used on the requirement for the 36-inch high bulkhead wainscot. Is that correct? That's the two basic changes we're looking at.
Now, I think are we talking about the signed ordinance, or are we talking about the zoning?
On the wrong one.
Yes, you're on the wrong one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just delete all that.
that's fine. No, we'll address that when we get to that. Yeah, it's yeah.
I still have that same question when we get to this one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's page 21. It starts on page 20.
24 is
And it's labeled Exhibit 1.
I read through all of these, zoning and planning, this was their proposal and approval that they had, and I'll make a motion that we accept that.
I have a motion to approve and a second from Randall. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? It's unanimous for.
I can tell you it was not that easy to understand the changes, but Mr. Wright over there walked me through some of them. And that was why my question on aggregate was adding all of those things together, so.
Item B, Wanda Peters, Margaret Peters. We're looking at parcel tax map R5, parcel 40. Did the council have any questions or comments regarding that?
Mr. Mayor, I move
Please.
that we allow for the variance being requested.
And I'll second.
I've got a motion and second to approve the variance. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous for. Okay, so Wynwood Gardens, looking to subdivide into 2 lots at tax map 22C, parcel 35.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the subdivision.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? It's unanimous for. Item D. So we're at tax map 37C, parcel 5A and 1. And we said that that square footage, really with that new siding ordinance, would be about 80 feet over the allowed square foot. Any other questions or comments? Item D.
Item D.
Item D.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the variance to allow for these signs.
I've got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? It's unanimous for. Item E, to allow for the truck to be parking on C2 at tax map 38B, parcel 2.
All right, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not keeping up with you. Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to ask the question. Do we need to get a motion before I ask the question?
No, now's the time to ask a question. That's fine. Public hearing.
I'd like to ask whoever, is this going to be only 6 trucks, or are we allowing for more trucks in the future? Is that what this variance is asking for? Only 6 trucks at the most?
Right, only 6 trucks and maximum 10 trailers, which is what our, my lease with Mr. Mashburn calls for. And we have an open-ended lease. If he sells the property, he has to give me 90 days notice to move. If I decide to move somewhere else, I have to give him
Mr. Mayor,
90 days. And
could we have him come?
Oh, please, yes. I'm sorry. Just come to. I'm sorry. Yes, yes, please.
I'm Mike Hatfield. I'm the president and CEO of MD Carriers, and I live at 572 Sandy Circle in Ringgold. And we have a lease with Mr. Mashburn for parking the trucks, but it's going to be a maximum of 6 trucks and 10 trailers. That's the terms of the lease, which I give to Greg Boss on Friday. So it's not going to be anything expanding beyond that. And I have another property where if I do have any other trucks, I park them over there.
One more question, Mayor.
Please.
How long have these trucks and trailers, because I noticed in there, I guess, maybe last week or the week before?
I think the 28th of January was the date that we signed the lease, and we started parking them there shortly
So
after.
they've been there a while.
They've been there a little while, and the reason I didn't even question the zoning on it is because we were parking the trucks right up the street at Paul's Place Chevron. He has truck parking in the back. But I did look at the zoning, and it's C2 up there, and it's in the city. This is C2, so I just assumed that, and I couldn't find anything that specifically talked about trucks being parked on C2 property, but I found other similar designations where truck repairs and trailer repairs was allowed under C2, and several other truck-related that would be, items or businesses that would be allowed there. So I didn't ever question it until they said something to me about it, and I was rather shocked, to learn. But as far as the traffic impact, it's almost nil, because like Mr. Proctor stated earlier, we have 4 trucks that have regular daily runs for Roper and Lafayette, and they leave out anywhere from 3 to 6 or 6:30 in the morning, and that's by design because we want to get through Chattanooga, and 2 of the trucks are going up to Nashville, and they want to get to their designation in Nashville before the rush hour up there, so that's basically in the middle of the night. And when they do come back, it's anywhere, one guy gets back around noon, and then it's depending on, if they get held up or anything, but usually by 3:30, everybody's back in, and when they're returning, they're turning off the same, on the eastbound side directly into the property. And that property is rather unique as far as, having a good view out there, because it's in a slight curve, and if you pull up to the roadway, you look to the right, and you see all the way down to Highway 41 at the red light, and you look, you see the top of the hill up there, so there's plenty of vision. It's not like anything restricted, so we have plenty of time to, if we do pull out, if there's any traffic, it's not a problem. But it's not, as far as
traffic is not any kind of issues at all.
Thank you. Please, Sarah.
I've got a question. Mark, did you read the lease? I mean, planning and zoning approved this, and I read that you stipulated that strictly under the terms of the lease.
No, we didn't have the lease at that time.
Okay.
We also provided, which they already had. Nikki gave us all the copy.
Oh, okay,
It may be in that stack.
that I didn't get to yet. She just gave it to us? Okay, all right, but you felt satisfied from what planning and zoning heard as far as the lease is concerned?
Yeah, because it was just contingent on this gentleman owning.
Right.
Once he moved off of that property, that variance goes away.
Okay.
Specifically.
Okay, all right, thank you, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I'd like a motion, we approve this, but only on the contingency that he's leasing the property at this point. Then if the property changes hands in the lease, they'll have to come back and ask for another variance for the property.
Sure, much like the planning and zoning did.
I'll make that motion.
Sure. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment. I
Please.
want to tell Mr. Hatfield, Mr. Proctor, thank you. As you can tell tonight, we have a lot of information up here that we're trying to go through. Some people may not believe this, but we try to be very conscientious in the decisions that we make. And I wanted to tell the two of you, thank you for your professional conduct on coming to that microphone and talking to us.
There's what we were given for our agenda tonight.
And there's another 250 pages that's on our internet that we had to read off of that.
I do have a motion and second. All in favor? It's unanimous for. Item F, yes. So we have those multiple variances that are in Exhibit B. Is there any questions about
Yes.
that? Please, Sarah.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. Chad, if you don't mind. Okay, my understanding was that more than just, tell me what, maybe I'll ask it. Tell me what was grandfathered in, because I understood after the fact that another issue had come up with Mr. Mashburn in the past with a metal building that then was approved, and I understand only lately that approval was based on a grandfathering clause, or a grandfathered concept. So when I looked at that property on Bookout Road, I saw the office space that was already really built, or a lot of it was built. Below that, and if you think I can read out those little bitty words, I can't. Below that was a concrete pad, and below that was a partially finished climate control. I could see that was the climate control building. And then over here, and I'm looking from Clay Road out, so over here looked like another building would be built. Is my understanding from our attorney is that you only need the variance on what has not been started. The ground has been broken, but not only is the first building grandfathered in, but the climate control building is also grandfathered in, so that there is a precedence for a metal building on the property under different rules, and I wasn't on the council at that point, but at some point the ordinance was different. Am I correct in that? Because I want to see what we're grandfathering in and why, because that to me is the rationale for the acceptance of a metal building.
Sure. And as the council knows, there have been multiple variance requests from multiple different property owners for metal buildings outside what I call the historic downtown area. And I think just a little bit of history as I recollect it, and my recollection is not nearly as good as it used to be, is that Mr. Mashburn, I think I came before you on his behalf, the Ringgold Business Center, for instance, had a metal component. He owns some property that he has behind the Hampton Inn, that he has a road off of Smitherman Road into, that he actually developed into what he intends to be a commercial development, and had a metal building at that time ordered and ready to put up on site. But between the time he had bought that and developed it, and this Lookout Road property was also owned at that time, and the building occupied by Madera Siding and Windows, its metal was up. We came before you to try to hopefully clean all that up and to get all of those properties that were purchased before the city put in the current facade requirements with the intent to develop. The city agreed that those would be grandfathered.
Okay, so what you're saying, because what confuses me, and actually Greg Boss wrote it, is ownership of property does not qualify for some building being grandfathered in. It has to be more than ownership of property, or we might as well not have that ordinance, because people can own property all over the city and then suddenly decide they're going to develop something and want a metal building and want it grandfathered in. That would defeat the purpose of the ordinance. So this variance to me is not based on, cannot be based on the fact that he owned the property. It has to be based on something that beyond that, a development stage beyond just simply owning a raw piece of property.
It requires you to own it and then to take a substantial step to develop it. I expend money out of your pocket to develop it under a set of rules and regulations, so you demonstrate this is my intent. For instance, the property Mr. Mashburn, obviously at Ringgold Business Center, it was built.
Right.
The property behind Hampton Inn, he spent a substantial amount of money putting a road in. This particular property, all of these tracks on Lookout Road, he cleared, he subdivided, he sold to Maderas, they built a metal building. To me, that would be an intent for these tracks on Lookout Road to be grandfathered. And really in the spirit of cooperation and good faith, I had these discussions with Mr. Boss, some with Mr. Wright, and we're just here trying to do the right thing to bring it all before you and clear it up.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
I got a question.
Were you done?
go ahead.
Please do.
The buildings you're discussing, you said was the Silvers buildings.
Yes, sir.
Didn't you say they were going to put a nice facade on the front, the main building, the office building?
My understanding.
So we're discussing a storage building that's not going to be climate controlled.
That's
It's
right.
going to be towards the back of the property.
Correct. There are four of those buildings that be accessed off of Lookout. But if you're looking at the plat, and I know it's small, to shrink it down, they would be on the northernmost track. Because the climate control is really going to be between
So,
the office and the.
From Lookout, it's going to block the view of those buildings
Yes.
anyway.
Correct.
Would you be able to see them much from the interstate? I mean, there are many warehouses.
Sure. I mean, I would think you'd have the same view of those that you have of the Madera Siding and Windows metal building from the interstate, that'd be my understanding.
Page 88 would be the site plan.
Right.
And the variance, the city zoning ordinance, it actually says on his office building, a contractor's shop, office, and storage is required to be I-1. Really, looking at this, all of his storage is going to be contained within the shop on the back of his building. But your ordinance actually says a contractor's office, shop, or storage is supposed to be an I-1. So that's why we wanted to be sure we had that clear too. That when everything's built out there, the use matches what's approved by the council. That's our goal.
Chad, you said,
Please, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, Chad, you said I-1, is it O1?
It could be 01,
Okay.
sorry, I don't have that.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor had another comment for
Please.
the attorney, and this is one I spoke on earlier, Chad, but, so I guess what we're doing, when we talked about the historic section versus some of the other areas that we're looking at developing, is it not true that this relaxes that requirement a little bit and it takes out the C2 requirement
I think it
that
does.
has been in there originally.
Honestly, I haven't kept up with the process of amendments, but I did hear, I was at the planning commission meeting last week, and I did hear what the intent was of that, and it sounds to me a bit like that you are relaxing some of, because the city continues to access out commercial, more traditional commercial corridors, Highway 151,
Sure.
Battlefield Parkway. I can see where it could be problem. You could have a log jam of variances coming before you if you got a lot of development going on those corridors.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, that's, just to add, I think that's something this council has discussed in the past. And is that accurate, Mr. Wright, what I'm
Yes, sir, it is.
alluding to as far as the C2 requirement
Yes, sir.
and relaxing that standard somewhat?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Just one other comment. I sort of agree with what both of you gentlemen are saying, except for the fact that when we looked, when I was on planning and zoning and we looked at a plan, how we would do a zoning plan out, we really wanted to make those facades look a little better. That for no other way to put it, look a little better. And that doesn't just include 4 blocks of the city. That includes as it goes out. So I understand this concept because something was approved. But if somebody went out and bought a piece of property that's out on 151 and it's grass and cows, and then they say, well, we ought to be able to do something else with that. I think that's something that we need to really look at more closely.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the law is pretty clear on that issue, that you've got to have more than ownership. You've got to buy it and then spend some money or take a substantial step relying on the regulations that were in place at the time before you really have what's called a vested property right.
Right.
Vested interest.
Right. I appreciate your understanding of that. That was kind of what I was getting to.
Mr. Mayor,
Please, Dan.
and I think this might address Councilman Clark's question there. I look back on an email that Jim Bisson, the city attorney, did back in July the 16th, 2014, when we were talking about the Gateway property behind Hampton Inn, where the metal building Mr. Bashman was building was a question. And just like Chad just mentioned, he says where he makes a substantial change in position by expenditures in reliance upon the existing zoning ordinance, then he acquires that vested right. So it's absolutely not about ownership. It's about making that vested in right based upon the current conditions. And this particular property, one piece of it he's owned since he made that development, putting sewer through the property and terracing it off and those type of things, where that vested ownership comes. One tract he sold and he purchased it back, and I think that's what triggered the variance.
You reacquired it. I forgot about that.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor,
I don't think I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you,
I'll
Randy.
second it.
I have a motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous, 4. And Hamilton Medical Center's request for their signage. Any questions or comments regarding that?
Move we approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor, just quickly.
Sure, please.
We reviewed this paperwork, Mr. Brady, on the paperwork that you submitted to us, and I just wanted to comment that we are happy to have you guys here, or you will be here, and this is a very professional looking sign that we're kind of proud of, so just wanted to add that to the record.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. All in favor? Unanimous, 4. Thank you. And then item H, the amendments for section 9.4 of the zoning ordinance. How would the council like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve.
I have a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous, 4. We had some discussion upstairs about, I'm at old business item A, about the stormwater proposal for Whittemore Street. And we are looking at additional factors, and we are looking to table this until the next meeting. If I could get a motion to that effect.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion that we table it till the next meeting just because of some unanswered questions that we have.
Sure.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous, 4. Item B, our K-9 update. I don't see Chief in here, but it does look like we have an opportunity to move forward with the initial K-9 that we were looking at. We have a officer ready to do that, and it looks like the council's going to need to approve just funding for lodging and food while he's there, and I believe that will be our only additional expense in doing this. And I would welcome any comment on it, but can I get a motion to approve that expense?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve retention of this animal. Go ahead with the training. We've got a lot of time, we've got money invested. There's a need there. He explained a lot of how we work for the county now on some of this stuff. And I think it will be beneficial. And down the road, if something happens, we still have the same opportunity to possibly sell that animal again.
And it just came to me as we started to talk about this. We did initially have a motion to sell the K-9, and I think that it may be prudent, Terry, to first rescind that.
I would make my motion to rescind the original motion.
Thank you.
And make a motion that we keep the K-9.
Okay, and I think that's fine to do that in one motion, to rescind that motion and approve retention of the K-9. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a comment, just
Please.
for clarification for our audience. This is a situation where that we purchased a K-9 for our police department to be used, and we had a turnover situation where the officer left. So now we have retained this dog and gone through a retraining period. And so we have another officer that Chief Bilbrey feels like will be an asset to take the K-9 program that we'll use in the city for drug stops and drug interdiction and that type thing. There will be some extra expense on training the officer that Mr. Crawford mentioned as far as the lodging and food during this additional training for the second officer. But we do feel comfortable with this, and we do encourage, or we do support the K-9 program, so we're kind of looking forward to getting this off the ground again, the second go-around.
Mr. Mayor?
Please, Dan.
And it may be well to note also that the initial cost of the K-9 was by a unanimous donor.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Let me see, I have a motion and second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Anonymous. Yeah.
Anonymous, not unanimous. I've been
Unanimous
writing
vote.
unanimous down all day. So, anonymous donor. Unanimous.
New business item A, Facebook Live council meetings. But one of the procedures of the council is when one of us puts something on the council, we necessarily wait until the next meeting before we actually vote on that item. But we did have a good conversation upstairs about some of the benefits and potential pitfalls of Facebook Live for our council meetings. And so I will ask in a moment just to table this to the next meeting, but it was brought up that we need to look at what some of those costs may be, what, as far as archiving, if there's any kind of requirements that that Nikki's going to look into there, and we'll look into see what other cities are doing in regards to this. And any legal issues as far as, commenting, retention of records, that kind of stuff. And so we're going to look at all those things, and I appreciate the conversation that we had upstairs about this. Do we actually need to vote to table this till the next time, or will it just roll over to old business? I think that it just rolls to old business. But I welcome any comments that the council might have on it, but we are looking for additional information.
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor. I think,
Please, Larry.
as you and I, we discussed upstairs, we're both Facebook users, And we do feel like Facebook can be good and it can be bad. The question I had was anything we do, we have to, that's generated by government, we're subject to the Georgia Open Records Act. So we did have a question about if we use that media from Facebook and we record those meetings, then how do we retain that just in case we are served with an open records request, is where that we have to comply with that request within a certain amount of time period. So I think that also entered into the legal issues that Mr. Crawford pointed out, that not necessarily against it, but we just felt like we needed a lot more information before we commit to doing something like that on Facebook Live.
Thank you. Please, Terry, yes.
I think that was a very good discussion. We had a long discussion upstairs over this. Nobody is opposed to you being able to see everything that's going on there. Nobody's trying to hide or anything. We're already televising, sending these out. All of our meetings are open to the public. Our work sessions are open to the public. And there are legal issues that goes with each one of these when we do them. And we do need to know exactly where we stand, what the issue is with this. And I think maybe give them a week or two that we can find out some more.
Absolutely, I agree. Any other comments before we move on? Item B, agreement for probation services. Dan?
Yes, sir. Our probation service is offered through our court system, has been with the Georgia Probation Services Incorporated for a number of years. I think it was the first probation company that we contracted with, and they've done a good job. They have someone here at every court, whether or not our judge actually issues someone probation or not. They're here regardless. The agreement was that you see before you was provided by the probation company, and we sent it to the city attorney, Jim Bisson, and that's why you've noticed some of the redlining and some of the marking out there. He's made several changes. One of the new requirements is that the governing authority now has to contract with the probation company. It was used to be between the judge of the municipal court and the probation company. Another issue is it can only be for a period of 5 years. Used to, you signed an agreement and it just continued to roll until one of the parties decided that they wanted to cancel that. In this agreement, you may notice that it has the fees at $41 per month for each person that goes on probation. The city will continue to be the location for community service, and we use those people to do a wide variety of things around the city, from picking up trash to cleaning buildings to weed eating. Sometimes we'll get people with skills, office type skills, and we'll use them for those type things. So unless there's just some unusual set of circumstances, most of the time the probation volunteers have to come here and do their community service. Now, if it's somebody from out of town, then we try to work with a municipality or a county or a state agency in that area so that probationer can get their time, their community service done. And they reciprocate. Other communities will call us and they'll say, we have someone from Catoosa County or Ringgold that's got 40 hours or 80 hours community service. Can you allow them to do it there? So it's a common practice. Be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
No, I thought our city attorney made some very legitimate changes in there, and I didn't have a problem with the plan at all. I'm welcome any comments or questions. Later.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question for city manager. If you look at this agreement, it looks like it's probably 15, 20 pages, and there are the strikes through certain sentences. Is that where it has gone to our city attorney and back to the probation services, and this is the agreed upon changes?
That's my understanding, but it's certainly our agreement. He sent a standard agreement, I think, that he had, but this is what we would like to propose back to Tony Moreland, I believe.
So we're kind of in that period waiting to hear back from Mr. Moreland?
Well, once we agree on it, we'll send it to him and see if he's, I don't think it's substantial in nature, the changes.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept and send forward this agreement for probation services that our attorney has amended
Okay,
in that,
Sure.
with that language.
sure. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Ms. Clark's motion.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous 4. Item C, City of Ringgold Resolution adopting Catoosa County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is a substantial plan. It was about 250 pages, and I did not read all of it before the meeting, and it was quite a big packet. We had discussion upstairs about tabling this until our next meeting, and I would appreciate a motion to that effect so that we can have enough time to properly go through it.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Unanimous 4. Paving, leveling, and patching various streets, contract award, Dan?
Yes, sir. This particular paving request are for Tiger Trail, all of Tiger Trail, and then Cleveland Street from Nashville to Tiger Trail. It also includes the striping and the stop bars. It's estimated that we're looking at about 365 tons of leveling, 483 tons of the super paved recycled asphalt, or what we call topping, and then 400 gallons of the tack. The low bid was Tally Construction in the amount of $94,910.45. Of that total, $42,785.99 will be paid from this year's LMIG funding from the Georgia Department of Transportation, leaving us $52,124.46 to be paid from the street budget, which we do have the funding available.
And you said the 2 streets were the entirety of Tiger
Tiger
Trail,
Trail.
and then Cleveland from Nashville to Tiger Trail?
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
correct. Those school buses keep wearing our
Right.
streets out.
Yeah.
Move we approve, Mr. Mayor.
I have a motion to approve the bid from Tally Construction, is that, okay, a motion to approve and second, all in favor? Unanimous 4. Highway 151 widening project, water relocation change, Dan?
Yes, sir. On page 150 of your agenda pack, you'll see an email that's outlined by Richard Aiken, city engineer from Rent McDuff and Associates, and he shows 2 different options to install a valve on a water main that is in conflict with Highway 151 widening there close to Ann Effie's and the Walgreen area. Scott Black, our water distribution director, has requested that we select option 1, which is more expensive for $19,395, but it would allow us to install that valve that's been needed for years with an inserter valve, which would not make us cut water off to several businesses, which I'm sure they would be happy of. And it would be a whole lot easier on everybody if we could do that.
Okay, so we're looking at option 1, that, and you said that the reason for that is it does include that insertion valve, and I'm sorry, I'm not just quite understanding it, so that gives us the ability to,
We'll install the valve hot.
okay, and so they'll still be able to have service?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion we approve number 1.
Got a motion to approve option 1 there, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous 4?
Okay. Talk about this later. I don't know what Russian.
So we're going to consider leasing the gravel lot located at the southeast corner of High Street and Depot Street to the DDA for high cotton junk sale. Dan?
I was looking to see if Mike is here. I don't see him. Mike Crane, who is the owner or one of the owners of the Ringgold Feed and Seed Antiques, he has requested the use of the gravel lot behind us in the past. They have used it for parking, but this year they would like to use it for additional vendors to set up on that lot and sell their goods. The only way that we could figure to be able to do that in a legal fashion would be to have the city lease the property to the DDA for a period of time that would encompass that particular event. and then allow the DDA to sublease to Ringgold Feed and Seed Antiques to use for that, what they call the high cotton junk market. It brings about 5,000 people into our community over about a 2-day period of time. The next one is September the 15th and 16th.
So really, all you need in our motion is just to lease the property to the DDA.
To authorize you to sign a lease. Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous, 4. Water tank reports, Dan.
Mayor, can we skip that one because the apple's not going to work?
Sure.
I'll let it boot up and we'll come back, if you don't mind, sir.
Okay. We'll go to item H, final change order, teleconstruction for Chapman Road and Highway 41 improvements. Dan?
Yes, sir. Tally Construction's foreman, I believe it was Mike Rose, along with Philip Schofield, the professional engineer with CTI, who was the designer on the project, and Mike Cagle, our public works director. They have submitted to you a final pay application. The final change order includes providing 73 additional days and increase the contract price from $932,933.96 by $13,387.06, making the final total, and this would be the final change on the project, $946,321.02. The reason behind the change order was to shift the alignment to expedite the gas line relocation. If you recall, that gas line in front of, I believe it was the tidal pond and the sales lot for Worley's used cars, that was going to be a major holdup there. And by shifting the alignment over to the west side of 41 Highway, expedited that project. Then widening Chapman Road to allow for the right and left-hand turn on exiting of Chapman Road was another item. And then undercut excavation, which was required by DOT for some substandard grade. And then as soon as the guardrail was installed, someone hit the guardrail, so we had to have the guardrail repaired. And that's the reason for the additional $13,387.06.
And this will completely close out this
It
project?
will close out this project.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the change order?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Unanimous, 4. City manager updates. Dan, please.
Take just a few minutes and wanted to talk about economic development. End of this month will be 24 years that I've had the pleasure of serving this wonderful city. And I don't know of a time when we've had this type of economic development before us. Poor Greg Boss is looking, he can't hardly move. And it's bleeding over to other departments. So let's talk about a little bit about what we're seeing. On Nashville Street between Sparks and Guyler Street, Ruth Stinson, who lost a building there during the tornado, she's building a 3,300 square foot all brick. It's going to be a beautiful building. It's going to primarily be office type space. I'm not sure if she has someone in mind to lease it or not. I've already provided her information to someone that's willing to lease it. One of our issues is we're having problems filling all the requests that we have from people that want to come do business in our city because there's just simply not enough spaces available. On Nashville Street, across from the Wells Fargo building, you see that block building going up, and that's Dr. Ernie Crash. He's building an 1,800 square foot building. He's hoping to get some type of a restaurant. He mentioned to me a breakfast type restaurant. The Dunkin' Donut Bakery, the 30,000 square foot commercial bakery in the industrial park is going well. If you haven't been by it lately, that has really turned into a nice facility, and we look forward Maybe they'll put a local Dunkin' Donut. I can't imagine how you could be cooking them on one street. I mean, because we're gonna have to go down there and test them, right, Mayor?
Yes.
Jerry Hawthorne has on Poplar Springs Road, close to where our well site is, between the Ace Hardware and the well site. He's got that permitted for about a 22 lot townhome development, condominium type development. So we're seeing that, the plans come through on that. Project Jump, where Center for Sports Medicine is, we are constantly getting calls about other retailer type people wanting to move in, anywhere from restaurants to office type space, retail type space. So we feel very confident that now that that is to grade and there's something starting to build there, we expect that we're going to see great things happen there at Project Jump. We're already starting to see things across the street, people starting to question and ask for zoning and ask for plans on our sewer system. So it's a good sign. Farm to Fork, who we heard from tonight here, he advised he's hoping to open sometime in September. So that'll be another great place to eat. You might say, well, then they're going to create an opening? No, because Mamacita's Mexican Kitchen will be opening in his current location there on Cassidy Drive. So that will just be continuous. I think they may have some shut down for remodel or some changes, but they're already in the process for their alcohol sales at that facility, or beer and wine. They've already made those applications. We're also dealing with a couple of fast food type restaurants. One is on Alabama Highway, and we're looking forward to that. We're also looking at another eatery in that particular area. So I think the widening of Alabama Highway is really starting to create some interest. You know, I asked Jamie today, who helps issue our business license, I said, what are we looking at just in the last, little bit of time? And Visual Groups, which is a printing company, has come to town pursuing Precise Janitorial Supplies, Tapestry, Hospice of Port Oglethorpe, Interactive Home Technologies, Prime Communication, Fulmer Concrete Finishes, Moving Mortgage, Visual Management Group, Bargain Barn. I saw their sign go up today, and it looks like they've named it Grocery Outlet, which is taken over where the ShopRite was. And so got a lot of good things happening. It's just trying to keep up with that. And of course, we're constantly going through just land use type permits where we have to review where they're moving dirt. Everybody has seen what's happening at the high school with the new ball fields that they're putting in, creating a lot of interest, and hopefully they'll get those ready before, I think, softball season is what they're shooting for. It'll be the first time that Ringgold Middle School has had their own field, so it's amazing. I'm sure they're going to be very proud. Another thing that we're getting a lot of comments made, and I'm sure you are as well, is these mass arm poles that we're having put up, and how you saw the foresight of paying a little extra to have those poles painted black. I think the money that was spent to do that, to make it match our historic downtown street lights, is going to really make a big payoff, because if they had gone with the typical galvanized pole, I believe it would have stood out, especially like at Cleveland Street and Nashville and Tennessee Street, where you've got those historic buildings right up on the edge of it. That black just helps them blend right in, and it looks like that's where they should be. Once they take down the other poles, I think they'll really look nice. But this last weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we had the first ever Ringgold Quilt Show. And I'll tell you, it was a huge, huge success. Kathy Graham, who owns Sewtime, her and her group of volunteers did an amazing job. Jamie, that works in the front office, who's sort of filling in for Rhonda right now, she made sure that our staff was where they needed to be at those times. Those quilts never were by themselves. once they went in that depot, somebody was with them. We had to sort of encourage some of our college students to spend the night in that depot. And of course, they all think it's haunted. So you can imagine what kind of, and I believe that some of them might have been playing tricks on the other ones during the middle of the night. But it was a major success. We're looking forward to next year. I know Terry Crawford, Councilman Crawford, spent a good bit of time. He and Pat was up there, I think, the whole time. Appreciate your help on that as well, welcoming people. It was amazing just to see people that you didn't recognize walking up and down Nashville Street, walking in the stores. We've heard from several of the stores about, hey, these people came and they bought stuff. You know, they had money in their pockets. So we like to have that. The Renaissance Strategic Visioning and Planning Program, we'll have a steering committee, and I know Councilman Franks, Mayor Millwood, and Councilman Terry Crawford are part of the steering committee this Thursday night, 6 o'clock here. I'm not sure what room we'll be in, but City Hall. Friday, something our county manager, Jim Walker, has challenged both cities is to do this coming Friday, I think it's September the 1st, to have it College Day and ask our employees to dress up in their favorite college colors, sort of try to make it a fun day. I think he's going to give some cash away for the best dressed or something of that nature around lunchtime over at the courthouse. So my staff's wanting to see me in all orange, and I'm just, yeah, we'll go to the next item. The water plant chemical changeover should be completed this week, and then I think we're already starting to do the punch list on that. So we should be getting that behind us, and we'll be glad to do that. EPD will be doing its sanitary survey this Wednesday. And what that is, that's on our water plant and our water distribution system. And it's a checklist where they come in and they interview the different people that are in charge, like Scott Black and Donnie Eriks, that work, hand in hand with each of these departments. And then they physically go through our facilities, and it's just a good checklist for us to go through. And then there's a grading system that they use. So each time what you try to do is do a little better than you did before. And so that's a very important thing that we have coming up. Sewer, Poplar Springs Pump Station down below Baggett Road, that handles a good bit of area off of Baggett and up Poplar Springs Road towards the landfill. In fact, it handles the leakage from the landfill. And then Heritage High School and Heritage Middle School, we had an issue with that station where the force main was trying to pull apart. Hats off to Mark Vaughn and his crew for going over there. They worked pretty much all Saturday during a low demand time for that station since the school was out, and was able to get a good repair there. So we're proud that they were able to do that. Inflow and infiltration, we talked about that at a previous meeting, is really becoming a priority with Mark and the sewer department. So we're glad to get that. Another big move that we're trying to make is, we've had several employees over the past few years retire, some with as much as 54 years of service. We lost some CDL drivers. So, our younger guys were having to get real creative and show them the benefit of getting their CDL. I think we've got several now that are getting to the point they've either passed it or they should be passing it here pretty soon. Stephen Middlebrooks and his crew, Parks and Rec, they made the first pour on the canoe portage, which was a big deal because that was the footing. And they poured, I think, 10 or 11 yards of concrete. Was able to pump it down instead of trying to get a truck down there and get stuck or get somebody hurt. And we'll have probably at least two more pours. Hopefully they can do it in 2 more pours. But the bottom, the most crucial part, is poured now. And then the next pour may get us out of the low water level. And then the next pour, of course, will be out of the water completely. But any questions about what we got going on? Or I'm sure I left out a ton. That was just...
No, that's a great update. Thank you very much. Exciting, great stuff. Please, Terry, please.
Kind of in conjunction with what you've been saying, Dan, Pat and I worked the front door at that quilt shop. We had people from, I think, 4 different states around, if I can remember right. And everybody made a comment on Ringgold. This is a beautiful town. I had people asking, what have y'all got going? And when I started with a list like Dan's got, talking about our new tech school, the new medical facilities coming in, they were just unbelievable. And a lot of them had been here in previous years. And they said, to come back and see where y'all are now is just unbelievable. And one little quick note, I know you don't want to listen to me talk, but there was a gentleman in here from California. His employers had sent him here to check on some road equipment with Road Tech. His job was to come in and see how it was built, the durability and all this. I got to talk to him. He said, it's funny you're talking to me. He said, I called my wife last night, told her to get ready. I've got just a couple more years to retire, and we are going to retire in Ringgold. He said, I just love it and the people. So it's spreading, it's going around, and a good smile and a handshake, it pays off.
Thank you, Terry. No, I'll take a second to brag on my mother-in-law. I know I splashed it all over Facebook, but she got a couple of first places and a third place for some of her quilts in the different categories up there, and she's just been through the roof excited, and all the connections that she's made with the different quilting guilds and stuff like that she's going to be able to take part in moving forward, and it was a great event. And so for people that, you know, that the quilt community, that's you know, a really neat cultural subset, and you know, so much history involved with that, and it was such a great event. But thank you for that update, Dan. That was a fantastic update, exciting stuff. I guess we're going back to water tank reports, right? Item G? Okay, let's do that.
Yes, sir. On, in your agenda pack on page 156, you'll see, and I tried to just put the text in your agenda pack, and I've got a few photos that you can look at tonight in case you're not familiar. I know some may not know where our water tanks are and what they look like. But on page 156 is the recommendations for the Peters Lane tank. And that particular tank is a 500,000 gallon tank. And then right behind it is the Clearview water tank. And I believe on page 163 is the recommendations there. If you let me dim the lights just a little bit, I'll try to show you a few of the photos of each tank so we'll have an idea what we're talking about.
I felt like maybe it did barely, but maybe not. Maybe I was just expecting it to.
This is the Clearview tank, and it's a 200,000 gallon tank. It sits about 63 feet tall, and you can see in the upper left, that's the little building that we use. And the reason that we have that building is we pump water to Peters Lane, the 500,000 gallon tank, and then we take another pumping system and we move it up to this tank because there's a couple hundred feet difference in elevation. So by the time the water gets up there, we have to recirculate a chlorine to keep the residual up in that particular tank. That's the gate in the road going up. You can see down on the bottom left here, there's some vegetation called kudzu that loves that fence, and Jose and Stephen and those guys, they do a really good job trying to take care and make sure that those fences are taken care of. This is at the base of the tank there on the right hand side. On the left you see that's the ladder that goes up the tank, and it has that stainless steel cover. That's to keep somebody from trying to gain access and climb that tank.
climb it.
The one on the right-hand side, you see where the target is. That's the level indicator on this particular tank. And to the right up from it there, you can see where the target has, or the cabling has caused the tank to become discolored. And then below it there, you see where there's a small amount of rust. And then at the top, my top left, you can see where we've got a little bit of rust up there on the platform. The upper right hand, that's on the actual top of the tank. That's where you see some of the fittings and some of those square, looks like clean outs is what we would call them in the sewer business, Larry, but that's actually where they can tie off rigging to gain access. And then, of course, here is the vent on the very top, and of course it has an insect type cover all the way around it. And then you start seeing some of the openings of the tank itself. And of course the chlorine is going to cause some of this discoloration here. I'm going to go to the other tank on Peters Lane right quick. And of course, this is a 500,000 gallon tank like we talked about a minute ago. That's the bottom hatch of the tank. This is a newer tank. This was built in the 90s. The other one was built probably 30 years ago. But we do have some flaking around the bottom. This tank has never been painted once it's been in service, so it's probably getting close, but you got some discolor happening here. And of course the sun is a big contributor on the outside, but all in all it looked really well. You do see some rusting there on the right-hand side. You can see the left hand where you go into the hatch, how nice and painted this one is versus the prior photo, and it's just an age issue there. So you may say, well, what do you want us to do? I think it'd probably be prudent for us to have CTI, since they did the inspections, maybe to start working on putting together a proposal so that we can allow contractors to give us prices on putting this out to bid by someone that is, able to handle the heights that they're going to be dealing with and the safety and dealing with the materials, because painting a water tank is just, not your average painter is going to be the one that goes out to do that. If y'all would like, I'll be glad to get Philip to maybe present us a proposal together to see what they would charge in order to put those bid specs together. Also, it'd be very prudent in this case to have their tank inspector go behind the contractor and make sure that everything is up to par. We really don't have the people that are capable of climbing this and maneuvering the way you need to go behind those painters. But that would be my recommendation, that we move forward with CTI to get a proposal together to.
So are you just looking, oh, I'm sorry. So you're just looking for that direction? You don't necessarily need a motion to do that?
Right. I mean,
okay.
I don't think there's anything, as I read the report, there's nothing that absolutely positively has to be done today.
Mm-hmm.
But, water is very important to us, and trying to keep these tanks as, top notch as we can, I think is very important to our consumers.
Okay, so just as you get that proposal together, you'll submit that to us, and
That's
we'll make a
okay.
determination at that time. Sure. Does anyone have an issue with that? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me see, that was item I. We're done with our items. Council comments to the public.
I got some.
Please, Jay.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. I mean, this is probably the most we've seen in a very long time. You know, it's nice to have people out here listening and concerned with what's going on in the city. And I'd like to thank Jim for coming by and giving his part on the variance. You know, the guy's been there for a while. I mean, you know, hopefully in the future it'll change. I don't know. I mean, it made me feel better when he said that they were leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning and getting in a little deal with the traffic storm as bad. But, you know, I do appreciate you coming and speaking your piece on that matter. And I want to thank all the council and the mayor. I think we've done a good job tonight. I think everything went well, you know, so I just wanted to thank everyone.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Please, Randy.
I want to thank Terry and Pat. I was up working with them at the quilt show on Saturday, and they did such a wonderful job welcoming the folks to our city. And I know the mayor was there I guess the day of the judging, weren't you there, Mayor? So
Yes.
appreciate y'all. This was a big undertaking of the Downtown Development Authority, which I chair, and we appreciate your support of that, because it's only through events like this that we bring people to town, that we also raise the money to reshape the future of our community. And that's a vital part of what we do here in this community, is project for the future and create some positive momentum. So
Very, very successful first year for that event, and hopefully it grows. That's
very
great.
much so. I also want to thank Jim for coming too. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. Does anyone have anything else? Please, Larry.
I have a comment, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to also thank Jim Cutler, County Commissioner, for coming and representing your constituents. And I think you made that point clear, that you were here for that reason. So thank you for that. Also wanted to, I have continual questions about our charter. I ran into this a couple of times this week, and basically who does what as far as our charter. And I want to point out a couple of things that I feel like that I want to put on the record that I feel like are important. Dan Wright has 24 years of service, as you mentioned earlier. And I think I have worked with a lot of people in my career, and I want to say that I think Dan Wright does a phenomenal job. I think he's very amazing at how much he gets done in a week's time. So Dan, I want to personally thank you for your service to the city, and I also want to add to that, as we're at a special time of the year right now, to where that I want you and others to be very thick-skinned from the constant criticism. You are our CEO. You are our Chief Executive Officer of this city. Your responsibilities are spelled out in our charter. And what I want to do is tell you, do not waver from those responsibilities. If you look at our charter, and I looked at it today, in Section 2.0, there are 9 subsections that specifically direct you to what your responsibilities are that you answer to us, the governing authority. And what I want to tell you is that of those 9 subsections, and look at each one of those individually, because according to our charter, we expect, and I personally say I expect you to fulfill those obligations on each thing that's pointed out in that charter that are clearly, as being our CEO, that are your responsibilities. I would also, as part of that, some of the questions continue to be, what are the mayor's responsibilities and what are your responsibilities? And what I want to do, again, is go on record to ask that the two of you work together on a daily or a weekly basis to make the decisions that are best for the city. And so I would like to personally ask, especially this time when we're faced with constant criticism and accused of being good old boys that are not capable of doing this job, and good old girls. I added that in the work session. But I want to encourage the two of you on issues to work together, because I think we need to, and maybe we can do a better job as the governing authority to try to help explain that to our citizens in Ringgold of what those individual responsibilities are. That the charter is very clear, and I think it spells that out. So I would like to personally ask you guys to try to work better together.
Well, I appreciate that, Larry, and I will echo, whenever the council votes for something to happen in the city, Dan gets it done. I mean, he gets it done. You get it done each and every time. So I will like to echo that, and I appreciate that also, and I think that's well worth noting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else?
I
Please,
don't
Terry.
think that many people realize the effort, the time, the study that goes into this. There's more than just coming down here on meeting night and say yes or no, or I oppose, I agree. There's a lot of study. If you look at that packet that I showed you all ago that we got for tonight, what was it? Almost 200 pages in that. And then we've got stuff that's been sent to us on the internet. And I've worked with the city in different fashions for over 30 years. Right now, the city of Ringgold has more great stuff going than any time that I can remember. And I think that not only is Dan, the council, but it's all an issue of working together. In the 30 years I've been here, I've never accomplished anything. But as a group, I can drive you down the street and just show you all kind of stuff that's gone on that's been great for the community. And that's what it's all about, is working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Anyone else? Do we have anything for executive session?
All right. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I got a motion from Randall,
Second.
second from Jake. Thank you. All in favor?
More motions, more-
I'll call that unanimous 4.